Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now the DXY is crashing, which is an important signal for Bitcoin and crypto, while Bitcoin is now bouncing from important short-term support as a Bitcoin whale just bought over $600 million worth of Bitcoin. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside Ethereum now breaking out from a new pattern in the short term, while Solana is still pulling back, which I'll talk about later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before getting into the Bitcoin charts today, we need to talk about some Bitcoin news today because MicroStrategy, which is essentially Michael Saylor's company, just bought another 14,620 BTC for roughly around $600 million US. And so right now, this means MicroStrategy is holding roughly around 189,000 Bitcoin, which is roughly around 0.9% of the entire Bitcoin supply. And so at this rate, at some point in 2024, MicroStrategy could potentially hold around 1% of the entire Bitcoin supply. They are getting closer towards that 1% level. And now some people might be talking about how this could be centralizing Bitcoin, but it is important to understand what decentralized and centralized actually means when it comes to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Because of course, Bitcoin is a proof of work cryptocurrency, which means if the supply is centralized in any way, that does not mean the protocol is centralized at all. Because for example, if you own just $1 worth of Bitcoin or $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, both of those parties have zero control over the Bitcoin network. And so unlike the fiat currency system or proof of stake systems, where large stakers have a lot more control over the network or over the protocol, of course, Bitcoin and other proof of work systems, like for example, gold, mining gold, if you're holding a certain amount of gold or a certain amount of Bitcoin, you have no say on how many more Bitcoin are mined. You also have no say on who else can access that gold or Bitcoin, for example. So that is why proof of work systems usually work pretty well when it comes to money. And of course, the total Bitcoin supply is limited. It has a maximum limit, which means if just 100 companies out there buy around the same amount as MicroStrategy has bought, that's basically the total Bitcoin supply gone if just 100 companies out there buy this same amount. But obviously, not the entire supply of Bitcoin is even available to buy on exchanges. Only a portion of the supply is actually available to purchase because obviously there's a lot of long-term holders out there that do not want to sell. There's also a lot of Bitcoin that's been lost forever. And so essentially right now we're in the middle or early stages of a Bitcoin rush where the Bitcoin scarcity has not even been felt yet, because obviously MicroStrategy is one of the few companies out there that's actually doing this strategy right here, acquiring a lot of Bitcoin. But remember, we have a lot of spot Bitcoin ETFs pending approval, potentially coming very soon, one of them being BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF. And of course, BlackRock manages tens of trillions of dollars, over $10 trillion in assets under management. And so essentially in a couple years from now, MicroStrategy might have a couple of percent of the total supply of Bitcoin, maybe 1 or 2%. BlackRock might have 5 or 10% of the total supply of Bitcoin. You might also see other countries like El Salvador and new countries acquiring a lot more Bitcoin. And so essentially a lot of the Bitcoin supply over the next few years could potentially really be taken out of the market, which would basically mean in that scenario, of course, there would not be a lot of Bitcoin available to buy, which means the ones selling Bitcoin can charge a lot higher price for that Bitcoin, because obviously price is determined by supply and demand. So if there's barely any supply of Bitcoin and a lot of demand wanting to buy that Bitcoin, that sends the price a lot higher. So there could be potentially a major supply squeeze coming over the next few years. But anyway, getting into the Bitcoin charts today, this right here is on the daily Bitcoin chart, looking at the Bitcoin price in the candlesticks and the DXY or the US dollar index here in the red line on the same time frame. And right now, as of recording this video, the DXY is dumping once again, continuing the bearish trend to the downside, which is a bullish signal for Bitcoin and crypto in terms of the trend. Because as you can see here on the daily time frame, once again, usually when the DXY is bearish, that is almost always bullish for the price of Bitcoin in terms of the trend, and vice versa. If the DXY is bullish, that is almost always bearish for the price of Bitcoin in terms of the trend. And once again, I want to make it clear that this is talking about the trend, not every single individual price movement, because obviously during a bullish trend, we can see short-term bearish moves here and there. But for as long as we're basically forming higher lows and higher highs, we're essentially still within that bullish trend here on the daily Bitcoin chart. And so once again, with the DXY continuing the bearish trend, as of right now, I am still very much bullish on the price of Bitcoin when you're talking about the trend on the daily time frame. But obviously in the somewhat shorter term here over the last couple of weeks, we have taken a bit of a pause from the bullish trend, a bit of a sideways consolidation due to this bearish divergence, which is technically still active as of right now. And as usual, a bearish divergence divergence means we're due to see reduced bullish momentum, at least in the shorter term, which can play out in the form of either choppy sideways price action or potentially a bit of a pullback in the price of Bitcoin. And so once again, with this still active right now, I continue to expect most likely some choppy sideways price action like what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. But remember, right now, this is still occurring within that bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at the 12-hour Bitcoin chart, just over the last one day, we've seen another perfect bounce from this exact line of support, which was support back here and also resistance all the way back here, which I talked about back here on the channel. And right now, this line of support is sitting at around 41.6K to 41.7K, approximately right where we saw a perfect bounce. And so once again, if we do end up seeing another short-term pullback, I would expect a bit of support around that level once again. And staying on the 12-hour time frame, looking at this ascending triangle pattern, we can see here on the 12-hour chart that we attempted that break to the downside over the last one day, but at least so far, we haven't really seen significant confirmation below this line of support on the 12-hour chart. And so once again, as I said in my last video, we really need to confirm a break well below 42.6K. And right now, this line of support is sitting at around 42.7K in order to actually confirm the break to the downside from this ascending triangle pattern, which would set up a bearish price target in that scenario if we see more confirmation. And that price target would be sitting at approximately $38,000. But on the other hand, if we actually see a bounce right now in the price of Bitcoin and then break out above this resistance, which is sitting at approximately 44.2K, basically, if we see that confirm with significant candle closes above that resistance, then in that case, that would set up a bullish price target at around 49.6K approximately. And so at least for now, we just need to see some more confirmation, either well below this line of support or well above this line of resistance with significant candle closes, like 12-hour candle closes, ideally even daily candle closes below this support or above this resistance. And as traders, we can actually make profit no matter what direction the price goes, whether we're breaking to the upside or to the downside. We can use longs and shorts to make profit in either scenario. And if you're wondering where I take these trades in the price of Bitcoin and other crypto assets, personally, I take these trades over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And in fact, if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account, you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link to make a Bitflex account and deposit $100 worth of crypto and make one trade over on Bitflex, you can get 10 USDT completely for free. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trade, you might as well get set up ready to go on one of those exchanges. If you want to get those extra bonuses, once again, use those links down below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And now taking a look at the shorter term in the price of Bitcoin, looking at the 4-hour time frame right now, as of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin is actually running into a bit of short-term resistance, which is sitting in between around 43,000 going up towards around 43.4K. And so if we end up seeing a confirmed breakout back above around 43.4K, then in that case, the next important resistance starts at around 44.2K approximately. But on the other hand, if we actually see a rejection from this short-term resistance, then in that case, we do have some support at around 41.6K, as I said earlier on the 12-hour chart. But below that, we also have this area of support sitting in between around 40.5K to 41K based on these previous lows. And also, if we're taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI, right now the RSI is on the edge of a possible breakout to the upside. And like I've been warning about almost every day since all the way back up here, the RSI was a leading indicator telling us that we're looking weak in the short term. We could see some bearish price action, which obviously played out as expected. Because if you're simply looking at the last time where the RSI started trending to the downside in the short term, once again, that was also a sign of weakness for the price of Bitcoin. But on the other hand, when we eventually see a breakout in the RSI back to the upside and a bullish reversal in the RSI, often that is also a leading indicator for more of a recovery in the price of Bitcoin. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, of course, over the last one day, we actually saw a move back to the upside, liquidating a lot of positions. And as for other liquidation levels, we do have a lot of liquidity above the current price, starting at around 44,000, going up towards around 44.2K, right around this area of resistance. And so once again, if we confirm a breakout here in the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI, confirming more of a bullish reversal in the RSI, as well as the price breaking out above this resistance right here, then in that scenario, once again, I would expect a move up towards around 44,000 to 44.2K, 21k, but only if we first confirm a breakout above this resistance, which right now has not happened. And just taking a quick look at the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates, which right now the funding rates are still very much above their neutral rate. And so this is still a potential warning signal at the moment in the market, a signal that we cannot ignore, because basically while the funding rates are this incredibly high, of course, the long positions are paying a lot of premium, a lot of fees in order to just long the price of these crypto assets, which basically means even if the price of these assets go completely sideways, do not move at all, the long positions are losing a bunch of money and the short positions are actually profiting. They're making a lot of money for the shorts based on these funding rates right here. And so, of course, we might not see it right now. We could end up seeing it after a slight move to the upside, but eventually we are due to see some sort of short-term reset to potentially reset these funding rates. And usually those resets, in order to actually reset the funding rates back down towards more neutral levels, they usually play out in the form of a bit of a pullback in the price of Bitcoin. But once again, simply based on the funding rates themselves, it's hard to say if it's going to happen right now or perhaps after a slight move to the upside and then a reset. But either way, these funding rates are very much unsustainable if the market does not go up very soon. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the daily time frame, and right now, just like Bitcoin, in terms of the trend on the daily chart, I'm still very much bullish here in the price of ETH. But of course, just in the somewhat shorter term, over the last couple of weeks, we have seen a bit of a sideways consolidation, basically a pause from that bullish trend due to this bearish divergence. And at least as of right now, at the time of recording this video, we have not yet confirmed the invalidation of the bearish divergence. So technically speaking, it is still active, but if we confirm a daily candle close above these previous daily candle closes in the price, then that would invalidate this bearish divergence. And of course, we still have this significant area of support sitting in between around 2.1k to 2150, which has perfectly been acting as support over the last couple of weeks. And if we're zooming into the 8-hour ETH to US dollar chart, like I've been saying over the last few days, since all the way back up here, we do actually have an inverse head and shoulders pattern, which has not only formed, but has now technically confirmed with one 8-hour candle close slightly above resistance. And once again, I first mentioned this pattern all the way back here. I said we still need to see a bit of a pullback in the short term and then a bounce. And then in my last video, when the price was right around here, I said that we need to see some sort of bounce in the short term for the price of ETH back up towards this line of resistance, which obviously we saw exactly as expected for the formation for this pattern. And so now that we've completed the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, and the breakout above this resistance with one 8-hour candle close, once again, this pattern is technically active right now. But it is important to understand that even though it is technically active, it is only active with only a small amount of confirmation, which means right now it could easily invalidate, because all it would take to invalidate the breakout for this pattern would be a confirmed break with candle closes back below this line right here, so back below around 2330. And personally, right now, I am actually opening a small long position around this breakout point with the stop loss just below the point of invalidation. But personally, for me, it's a very small trade. I'm not going in very heavy considering the lack of confirmation right now. Once again, we don't have a lot of confirmation, only that one 8-hour candle close. But if we see more confirmation, like for example, another 8-hour candle close, or even better, if we see a retest and confirm that previous resistance as new support, then for example, in that case, I would use that extra confirmation signal to simply add to the long position. But once again, at least for now, I do have a very small long position here for the price of ETH for this breakout with the stop loss just below the point of invalidation. So if we crash back to the downside right now, it's really not a big deal. I'll exit out of the trade automatically. And as for the technical price targets for this pattern, for the breakouts for the inverse head and shoulders pattern, that sets up a bullish price target at approximately 2.5k, more specifically around 2510 to 2520. And so from the point of the breakout, which is where the price of ETH is pretty much sitting at right now, to that price target, that's around a 7 to 8% move to the upside. And so just as an example, with a 10x leverage trade, that's around a 70 to 80% profit if this pattern fully completes. And once again, if you want to take trades just like this, personally, I take these trades over on Bybit, and there's also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange. Use those links down below this video if you want to get those extra bonuses. But as always, this is not personal financial advice. I don't know your personal financial situation. I'm just letting you know what I'm doing with my own money, and hopefully that might be useful to you. But anyway, taking a look at the 4-hour time frame, and right now the price of ETH has just just broken out above this area of resistance, which was sitting in between around 23.10 to 23.30. And in fact, we've just run into this area of resistance based on this previous high, sitting in between around 23.80, going up towards around 2400. And so at least for now, that is the area of resistance to pay attention to. And this previous area of resistance, which we just broke out above, could potentially now act as new support. But anyway, getting into the Solana part of this video, this is on the 3-day time frame. And like I said in recent videos here on the channel, the price of Solana is now rejecting from significant resistance, because we do have this area of resistance sitting in between a Fibonacci level and this previous high, sitting in between around $120 going up towards around $140. And obviously so far the price of Solana has pretty much perfectly rejected from that Fibonacci level of resistance close to $120. And so of course we could potentially see a bit of a short-term pullback here, but remember, this can still occur within the larger bullish trend, because obviously during this larger bullish trend we can see short-term pullbacks from time to time. And in fact, if we're taking a look at the short term, looking at the 4-hour chart, obviously over the last 1 to 2 days, we have now seen a bit of a short-term pullback as expected due to this bearish divergence. Because of course, if you're looking at the last bearish divergence that actually played out here on the 4-hour time frame, that was all the way back here, which also happened at this previous Fibonacci area right here. And so of course, right now we have a lot of similarities to what we saw back there, with the price running into a significant Fibonacci level and also playing out a short-term bearish divergence. And what we saw back then, obviously, was a short-term pullback over the next few days, which is now playing out. And obviously this could potentially continue over the next few days or so, because at least for now, this bearish divergence is still currently active. And so at least in the shorter term, I'm somewhat neutral to bearish in the price of Solana due to this bearish divergence playing out and the price rejecting from major resistance. But remember, that's just talking about the shorter term, as in smaller timeframes, and what we could expect over the coming days or possibly over the next 1 week or so. But if you're talking about over the next few months or over the next year, looking at the larger timeframes, technically we're still within the larger bullish trend. But if you want to know how you can profit from crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or just chopping around sideways, you can profit in either of those scenarios by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit using longs or shorts if the price is bullish or bearish, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.